Welcome again to Filmcast Without a Cause. I'm Jacob Rosdale.
I'm Patrick Boberg.
And we are joined today by a special guest, someone to add some much-needed professionalism to our rookie podcast from the Midwest Nerds podcast. I said that right.
You did say that right. Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Jason Burns, how are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing well, and I would recommend, or I would suggest right away that the number of podcasts does not equate the professionalism of the podcast. So just go to MidwestNerds.com and you can find out for yourself.
You guys have done over 100 episodes already. This is officially our third. So you have a few under your belt. So we brought Jason along for a segment we're going to do later in the show, but doing some pre-show talking, we realized that he might have something to say about the news, how we start off every show with talking about what's going on with movies and nerd culture and whatnot. Pat, what happened this week? Something. I'm drawing a blank. Something.
It's just a little get-together of some, like friends, people from around the nation who just come down to San Diego and talk movies and comics. Something called San Diego Comic-Con. I don't know. It hasn't been around very long, only about 3.5 decades. So.
I've heard of this. It's a small local festival.
It's basically the who's who of nerdery and now Hollywood and tween movies.
So we're going to be talking about Twilight, Breaking Dawn, Part 2, correct?
That would be your realm, considering you're probably the only one out of the three of us who's seen any of them.
Certainly. Well, anyway, Comic-Con, it used to be just, we were being facetious earlier. It's a big deal. Comic-Con has become the time of the year when we get our first glimpses of what we're going to be seeing for the next year or so. Guys, what have you heard about from this past week? It was from Thursday to Sunday, I believe. Any movies shout out at you?
Basically, the main thing that I look for are the comic book movies because, I don't know, maybe that's where it came from, and I'm a big Marvel fan, so anything they throw out, it's pretty big to me. And obviously, if you followed anything, it was Guardians of the Galaxy was their big announcement, kind of saw that coming. But I was so upset that I couldn't be there just for the Ant-Man test footage, which sounds ridiculous. But after reading what Edgar Wright's Perspective movie, they still have yet to say it's actually happening, even if they have a banner for it and test footage. They revealed what seems to be like a little action sequence of Ant-Man fighting some people with randomly jumping between normal size and ant size and kicking some guards over and then running through an air vent. So it just sounds amazing because I'm a big fan of both the silliness of Ant-Man, Marvel Comics, and Edgar Wright. Anything he's done so far, I've been a major fan of. So that, if it ever comes to fruition, was the big get of this week for me. Jason?
Well, so did you guys follow the Firefly panel at Comic-Con?
Sounds like there were a lot of tears on both the panel and in the room. People just happy to be there and talk to each other.
Well, and like there was this rumor that kind of spread around Reddit for a while that based off of what Joss and the gang said about Firefly, there was sort of like an inference that a Firefly reboot could be possible on the Science Channel, but it was all like really rumory and really like that's not what they meant and that's not what really happened. And then a bunch of the other internet fans kind of came out and said, no, it's totally what's happening. And like, has that? I just got to that point. Like, has that been confirmed, or was that? I mean, what's going on with that?
I know that the Science Channel has been airing the reruns of Firefly, and they've been doing pretty well for Science Channel with them.
The only thing I heard was they were going to do like an animated run of just a few like web episodes. I didn't know specifically about what was happening.
You're all saying news stories that I never that I didn't hear anything of. I know that Science Channel is airing the 10th anniversary panel as a special later on, and I remember hearing that they announced that they were going to do some more comics set after the film Serenity, but.
And I think that's what it is. And I think it was just, there was some misinterpreted wording there for a second where everybody was like, they're totally rebooting Firefly. And
optimism.
It all started before Comic-Con because I don't know if you guys saw, there was like this presser that went out that said like, we look forward to seeing you all at the panel where we talk about the past, the present, and the future of Firefly. And everybody's like, what does that mean? What's the future going to hold? And then I think they just do that all of the time so that they can talk about comics and they can talk about expanded fiction and they can talk about... Because, there's still stuff going on. But I think for me, the biggest news was I was right there when that came out, and I'm like, a reboot of Firefly? Oh my god! And then my heart was crushed along with everybody.
Yeah, I think the only thing that officially came out of it was the Science Channel was going to keep airing the episodes, and then something special, some special video or inside featurette was going to air. Nothing like a sequel or an official rerun or reset on the entire show. Which I think that might break a few hearts if they reset it. But then the Science Channel doesn't have the money that, say, Fox did. So.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think the Science Channel can get together enough nickels to make that show happen. Like, I think they're more than happy with the reruns and then maybe some extra stuff. But I don't think they can conjure up enough dough to do a full production schedule of a show like Firefly.
Yeah, and Fillion's busy with Castle. Monica Baccarin is on that show Homeland.
Yeah.
A lot of things would have to fall together, or they would have to eliminate cast members, which Joss could do, I'm sure.
Yeah. He's if anything, he's shown more of a willingness and even a sick glee in killing characters that we really, really love. So, but for me, that was the big thing of Comic-Con, because for a brief moment, it was like, all of my dreams are coming true.
That's why I didn't lead with it, because none of your dreams are coming true. They're just teasing us. It's not going to happen. Nothing special is going to happen. And if it's just a featurette of, hey, we shot this while we were filming, it's like, why just tease us so much? So I don't know. The Marvel thing was the big one for me.
Yeah, I wanted to comment a little bit on the Marvel thing, because Jason, in case you didn't know, our show seems to always veer into superhero territory, even though we purposely try and design the show not to do so.
It's the summer of superheroes. We've got to get over it. Once we get into September and October, then we won't talk about it for months.
It's the summer of soups.
Well, Marvel at least seems to be making an effort to diversify their catalog a little bit. So trying to prevent that superhero fatigue that's going to come eventually, if it hasn't already came. I remember last summer people were talking about how they didn't want to see Captain America because they were sick of superheroes. But with a series like Guardians of the Galaxy, which in theory could be straight up space opera. I remember in the 90s when I was reading comics hardcore, the Guardians of the Galaxy were a real joke. It was set in the 31st century. All the characters had these bright, garish colors. They seem to have rebooted that in 2008, and now there's a raccoon on the team.
Rocket
Raccoon. I don't know anything about. I'm gonna probably read some comics now.
He's a wisecracking raccoon. I just looked into it. I don't know. Hold on. There's that and the talking tree that only says his name. He can't do anything else. I mean, he can fight, but he can't say anything but his name.
But they showed a piece of concept art which had the raccoon in the tree. So apparently they are going to go that route. They're not going to cut out the raccoon just because you can't have a talking raccoon in a movie. They might as well bring Howard the Duck back. They have the rights to it.
That's what people are saying. Is it going to turn into Howard the Duck?
And I guess let me ask this question: like, how well known is Guardians of the Galaxy? Because like
it is definitely a nerd, like a nerdy nerd comic, not a well grasped. I think it's really a Kevin. Is it Feige? Is that his name?
Kevin Feige. I don't know. He's the main producer of the Marvel movies.
Yeah. Well, it's his passion project. He wants it to be made.
Because in a year where we've had a film like Disney's John Carter, you know, I would think a lot of studios would be looking at something like that and going like, I'm not so sure about this because, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy, like it sounds interesting. Like as you describe it, I'm like, all right, well, there's a raccoon there and a tree that says its name, I guess. I could.
And they're in space. We know that.
And they're in space, and I'm a sucker for anything that's, you know, extra orbital. So, you know, but I don't think the American movie-going public would be as down with it as I am. But I don't know. It would be interesting to see, but... And
I think they've been laying the groundwork for it a while. I was in Target the other day, and they actually had Guardians of the Galaxy action figures out, including Star-Lord.
Durax the Destroyer. That's cool to say.
Yeah, that's what they're gonna get people with the goofy names. That's the idea.
There's maybe something to this.
And Ant-Man sounds more like it's going to be comedic as opposed to the other Marvel movies. So they're diversifying. That's a good sign. And we got our first... We didn't, because we weren't at Comic-Con, but they revealed some Iron Man 3 footage, I guess. That was well received.
Yes.
Confirming the worst-kept secret in comic book movies that Ben Kingsley was going to play Condoleezza Rice. Bad joke. That wasn't even a joke.
Why have I not heard that secret at all, Jacob?
But that Ben Kingsley was going to be the Mandarin playing yet another ethnic character. And I'm not sure what his actual ethnicity is, but the guy has been cast in The Prince of Persia, and he was Gandhi, and now he's going to be... Now he's going to be in...
That's right. He was in the Prince of Persia movie. Wow, how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
Ben freaking
Gandhi himself.
And now he's an Asian guy. As the stereotypical Asian villain in Iron Man 3. And they showed off, this is something we actually can speak to because they've put out photos. It was on the show floor. Iron Man's new costume. Did either of you guys see that?
I did not.
I didn't get a check of the armor. No, is it? Are we looking at like some extremist action? Is that what we're doing?
The footage they showed had his he was showing off to some supermodels, and then all of a sudden he just put his hand out and summoned his gauntlet, like his glove, with the Force. So it wasn't necessarily extremist, like it popped out of his body, but it popped across the room. So
Extremist, for those who are listening who don't know about Iron Man, is a nanotech ability that he gained recently in the series, in the last 10 years at least. But the armor he wore in that series is kind of very similar to the armor he wore in the first movie. I'm not a fan of the new armor. It might change. It has a lot of this weird copper color to it. We'll post a photo if we can find a good one onto our show website. I did want to talk about a couple other movies that I heard about at Comic-Con. I didn't hear about them at Comic-Con, but they showed some footage, and the buzz is good. Elysium being one of those.
Yes, I'm definitely interested. I think most people are if they know of District 9.
Yes. It's the directorial follow-up by Neil Blomkamp?
Blomkamp, I believe, yeah.
District 9 being an awesome sci-fi movie, and Elysium promising basically to be Occupy Wall Street in space.
Okay, for starters, I need to back up and I need to forward the unpopular stance that as brilliant as District 9 was, and it was brilliant, I have a hard time watching it.
Because
it's the Schindler's List thing for me, where it's so difficult to watch for me, where they're just so brutal.
That's why it was set in South Africa. Because of apartheid.
No, and it's brilliant. I'm fully, I really loved it. I had it on Blu-ray, and I had to get rid of it, because every time I watched it, I was just like, I don't feel good.
And it doesn't sound like Elysium's going to have any more escapism in it. It's ostensibly about a man who is going to die unless he gets into the city that only 1% live in, where everything is golden and beautiful, and they have health care for everyone, and they can cure everything. So
can we assume that this is like 007 Moonraker if it had succeeded, that all the rich people are in space?
Right.
Have none of you seen Moonraker?
I've seen Moonraker. I forgot that was the scheme.
I don't really know exactly who's in space other than the giant guy who was the best one to play in GoldenEye.
Jaws.
This is the Newt Gingrich utopian future where Moonbase was a thing. And now this is like the extension.
He's the moon president?
Yes, yeah. President of the moon forever.
There's been one photo released of Elysium that I've seen. It's Matt Damon. He's bald, and he's holding this cool-looking gun. It kind of looks like a marshmallow gun. It's kind of like a pipe.
It's a T-shirt launching gun.
Yeah,
right. It's from baseball.
Maybe that's it. That's all they have to fight with in the future.
Ironically, all of the T-shirts are advertisement T-shirts for the movie. It's this very meta thing, where it's just and it's promotional material for the film.
I would see that. Well, needless to say, even if it doesn't prove itself to be rewatchable because it's a punch to the gut, it's probably going to be excellent and highbrow science fiction, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. A movie that I doubt either of you guys care one bit about, that I'm really glad got good buzz out of Comic-Con, is Disney's Lone Ranger, because I'm a big fan of pulp and radio heroes, the Lone Ranger included.
Nice.
But apparently it's going to be a little more serious and dark and epic than all the Tonto being Don Quixote or Sancho Panza to the Lone Ranger's Don Quixote. It had me worried that they were going to go jokey with it, but supposedly it's going to be good. We'll see. Disney likes to put money in things, so it'll at least look expensive.
Right. It will look great despite however many people go to see it.
There's probably hundreds of other stories out of Comic-Con we could talk about. Anything you guys were just dying to get out before we wrap it up here?
Comic-Con looked like, again, it's this experience that I need to go to. It's become this quest now where I just need to get to this place. So I think this is the year where I decide that if anybody else is going to Comic-Con ever, I'll just sleep in the back of your van or whatever so I can get there.
MidwestNerds.com. That's where you can find Jason and offer him that ride. I don't think there was anything this year personally that blew up in my face that I thought was amazing or didn't see coming. Maybe it's just a personal down year for me, but maybe next year.
Yeah, we kind of hyped it up a little bit on our last week's show when we talked about our dream announcements. So everything was going to fall short of those, of course. But it's become such a thing that even nerds, you don't have to be a nerd to want to go to Comic-Con. My wife mentioned that she wanted to go to Comic-Con.
Sure.
So
it's a brave
that got me
It's
excited.
a brave new world now that the Twilight folks are there. I mean, it's now truly pop culture.
Maybe we should start a 360-day Kickstarter to try and get the FWOC fans to rent a Stagecoach bus, and we can all caravan out there. So everybody, if you want that to happen, leave some feedback at our website, filmcastwithoutacost.com.
We're going to come back and do our feature review, but then Jason's going to join us again.
Yes, yeah, I'll be around for the last third of the show. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm from Roma. My job is to stand up here, and I see all people in Roma. All is a story.
A large cast of characters endure different levels of love and romance in the eternal city of Rome, with their lovers, their personal history, with life, and of course the city itself. But just like Rome, love can sometimes be too much to take in, leaving the entire cast searching for ways to deal with their situation in Woody Allen's To Rome with Love.
I lived in Rome for a year when I was your age. This might have been my exact street.
Come on in, my girlfriend makes great espresso.
My friend just broke up with her boyfriend.
I told her she could stay with us.
She's smart and funny. Men just adore her. I think it's because of the sexual vibe that she gives off.
I always had a little yen for sleeping with a woman, and when I finally did it was incredible.
She's something, isn't she?
It seems to be a challenge all directors undertake at some point in their career, the ensemble cast film. However, To Rome with Love writer Woody Allen has proven to be a master of the craft. His ability to create characters who are slaves to their idiosyncrasies works so well with the woven plots these films call for. Still, Woody's talent for true-to-life, flawed protagonists has proved to push some of his works to be hard to swallow. Jacob, can the storytelling of To Rome with Love be compared to masterpiece of a skilled craftsman, or a lesser effort that you admire but fares poorly compared to his other works?
Definitely a lesser effort, but my level of admiration varies. I'm a big Woody Allen fan. I've been trying to see all of his movies for the past couple of years, and since he's made a movie a year since 1969, I have a lot of catching up to do. But I've realized that this movie a year thing is part of his process, and even his bad ones, and I would include this one as one of those, have things to admire. This definitely is not one of his more memorable movies. I couldn't even remember the title the other day when I was talking to someone about it. There was a great piece in the documentary, Woody Allen, a documentary, where Woody's talking about his process, and he's in his bedroom, and he takes out this drawer, and he pours it on the bed, and it's slips of paper. And he goes through the pieces of paper and he says, here's an idea for a movie and here's an idea of a movie. And when I'm done with my film, I go to the pile and I start writing another one. And this movie felt like he found 4 or 5 strips of paper that had no real reason to be bunched together, but he had a movie due in Rome, and so he got to work. Did you really feel that this was a cohesive piece of work?
No, and I was actually kind of surprised with the direction that some of the stories took, and I was like, well, and then when they paid out, there were a few there was one that I really enjoyed. That was the Baldwin storyline.
Yeah, right with you.
But the Roberto Benigni line, I wasn't really a fan of. The Newlyweds line, storyline, I wasn't a fan of. Those are the 2 main Italian pieces. And I actually, it was a lot more it was slighter than the rest, I would say, the Woody/opera singer storyline, but I like that one as well. So there are 2 in there that I felt were strong and maybe could have been movies by themselves, but it's really just a collection of short stories that don't weave very well. And even with that said, there's some really strong acting in this. I thought that Alec Baldwin was top notch, and Roberto Benigni, while I didn't really care for how his paid out, I thought he was really good in his slapsticky sense. I don't have the history with Woody Allen that other people do. I've only seen about 4 of his films, and I'd like someday to see them all. But I don't really want to compare it to the few that I've seen, because those are the masterpieces of, say, Hannah and Her Sisters. But there's pieces in there that I thought were true to life, and that's just the charm and the specter, I guess, of Woody Allen and doing what he does.
I am totally with you on the Alec Baldwin piece. I don't think we want to give away too much of what that one's about, but it kind of has a magical realism, nostalgia thing going for it, not unlike his biggest hit to date, last year's Midnight in Paris. And I think if they would have stretched that one out, maybe found a B story to go with it.
That might have been the movie itself?
Stretched out some pathos. It would have been compared a lot to, even more to Midnight in Paris, but I think it could have been a really, really good film. As it is, I found myself in the theater wanting to fast forward to get back, fast forward through Roberto Benigni or Penelope Cruz to get to the Alec Baldwin story, which Baldwin's someone who can cash it in nowadays. But he didn't with this one, and it's really one of the better times I've seen him. And who else is in that? Jesse Eisenberg.
Ellen Page was in it.
And Greta Gerwig. Mm-hmm. And Baldwin and Gerwig I thought were great. I did want to, even though I say I really liked the Baldwin piece, I think that section had the problem that a lot of Woody Allen films have, where actors come in and they try to act like they're in a Woody Allen film.
Yeah, like they're playing Woody's role.
Yeah, and you have Jesse Eisenberg, who's neurotic in general. That's kind of his thing. And Ellen Page plays it up a lot, the stuttering and the neuroses. And then you actually have Woody Allen in this movie and Roberto Benigni. There's just too many fake Woodies in this movie and the real one. Just there was nothing thematically binding I found in the stories. I don't even know what the thread is, other than that they're set in Rome. I didn't even think any of them. Some of them weren't even romantic. The levels of fantasy varied from piece to piece. The tone varied from the melancholy to the slapstick, and even the timeline of when the stories took place.
Yeah, like Roberto Benigni's plays out what seems like over a couple of weeks, whereas Alec Baldwin's is, the Newlyweds is a day. So it's really, really awkward in that sense.
I think this movie would have been a lot better if he would have structured it more like an anthology, and had one movie completely play out, and then the next one, and then the next one. So I wasn't dreading it scene to scene, hoping that the next section was going to be the storyline I was liking, which would probably be the bald one and the opera singer one, the one with Woody in it. As it is, because I could see myself wanting to watch the Alec Baldwin as a short film, but since I know I'd have to suffer through the other stuff, not even suffer, it's not that bad, it's just very slight.
It's so slight, it almost felt like he was trying to make like a Jules and Jim style film where there's so little there that it's almost like, counterculture to a certain extent. But that being said, at the same time, the Baldwin piece, which we'd seen we're both on the same page about, I really enjoyed it, and it kind of, to me, it was a different type of take on how to show a character or to show somebody, because I thought that Ellen Page's role was going to be seen as, poorly written and a little overacted. But at the same time, I kind of felt like if you're Jesse Eisenberg in the flesh, you might be enthralled by this person who's so dramatic with her life. And people who've been in those situations in the past where they fall in love with somebody, just at first sight, just for who they are. And then later, maybe they have reservations. But at the same time, I thought that from the outside, people see that and they're like, this person's so fake. But on the inside, if you're Jesse Eisenberg, you're thinking this person is amazing. So I was really taken with that type of storytelling.
Yeah, it would have been, I don't know if it could have sustained a whole movie, but that was definitely the section I was enjoying the most. And I think it's probably the one that gets the least amount of screen time in the entire film. I guess if I was to wrap it up, I would say I do not recommend this one, but if you get a chance to see it on cable or on DVD, it's definitely worth the rental to see parts of it for sure.
I would agree. It's not worth the $7 or maybe $12, depending on where you live, but it's definitely something to watch with a glass of wine and have a few laughs. I was definitely laughing at some of the singing scenes involving Woody Allen and his idea for his soon-to-be in-laws.
I had a suspicion in the theater when I wasn't laughing. I'm like, I bet Pat is loving this.
Oh, come on. Well, if you have any ideas yourself about this film, make sure you leave us a feedback on Twitter, FilmcastWOAC, Gmail, filmcastwoac@gmail.com, or, of course, filmcastwithoutatcause.com. Leave us some feedback on the specific episode, and we'll toss it in the show next week.
To Rome with Love is rated R for some sexual references. We're going to be back in a minute with special guest Jason Burns to talk about video game movies. And we're back to talk about something that has absolutely nothing to do with Woody Allen's From Rome with Love. And we brought Jason Burns back.
Yay!
Yay! And we're going to talk about video game movies. And why are we going to talk about video game movies? Well, because there have been so many announcements! Exclamation point. When we recorded our last show, we mentioned that Michael Fassbender had signed on to produce and star in an adaptation of Assassin's Creed. And since then, movies for God of War, Deus Ex, Need for Speed have all had news break out about them. And we're not experts. I own a PlayStation 3, but I usually play games that are years and years old. Pat, do you play much video games?
I have an Xbox, the original, and I occasionally play my 10-man collection of Mega Man. And I play the occasional Wii at parties, but it's been a while since I bought a real video game, mostly because my wife won't let me spend the money on them.
At the Midwest Nerds podcast, Jason Burns, you guys do a lot of talking about video games, right?
We do a lot of talking, and sometimes we do a lot of delaying of recording our podcast because we're too busy playing video games to record a show. That's only partially true, by the way. Before fans of our show flame war us for delaying recording because we're too busy playing like Diablo 3 or something, that's only happened a handful of times. Usually it's life gets in the way. But yes, we play a lot of games. We talk about a lot of games. I would say I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I know a thing or two about a video game.
You know more than we do is what we've established anyway.
Yes.
So looking at that list, we don't have to talk that much about Need for Speed, though it's been announced for February of 2014. That's the one on my list that actually has a release date. But looking at Assassin's Creed, God of War, Deus Ex, do any of these have the potential to be good movies? I know Assassin's Creed and God of War. I don't know much about Deus Ex. What is that?
Oh my God. Okay, so Deus Ex is, I would say, to answer your first question, yes, all of them have potential to be the first really good video game movie. The unfortunate thing is most of them, or probably all of them, won't be the first really good video game movie. And I don't really know what the problem is and why nobody's been able to strike that balance between service to the source material and entertaining film, but nobody seems to be able to pull that off. But I would say any of those games, any Assassin's Creed, God of War, Deus Ex, any one of those three, if done well, could be a really great movie.
I think out of the three that I know a little bit about Assassin's Creed and God of War, but Deus Ex I kind of know the most about, just watching my former roommate play them back in college. And I actually think that it's kind of like in the vein of like Blade Runner, Fifth Element, cyberpunk future, dealing with, I think it's a cure and something, I had to look this up. It was something called the Gray Death. Am I right?
Yeah, you're on the mark. So Deus Ex is about this, it's sort of this near future world where human augmentation is now a reality for folks. So you want to go in and you get yourself a bionic arm. You can do that. You want to jump higher, run faster, turn yourself into a living weapon, whatever, that can be done. So it's all about the power struggle that erupts in a reality where humanity and what it means to be human is always in flux. So that right there, I think, is interesting material for a film.
Sure.
The primary game, the first Deus Ex, centered around this conspiracy that evolved around the central character who was the first nano-augmented human. So before, the old tech was literally like bionic arms. Like you would just strap a robot arm onto yourself, and you were kind of this weird human cyborg like amalgamation.
Like Dax from Mortal Kombat?
Yes, exactly. As a matter of fact. Yeah, you had these like ridiculous looking metal arms. Sometimes you would almost look like a Borg in the face if you had like ocular implants and stuff. But your character was one of the first people who was pretty much indistinguishable from a regular human, but you were twice as strong and you could regenerate and you could, and so then it just centered around the people that made you and what your purpose is, and eventually you decide the fate of the world, because there's this conspiracy theory to take over the world through nanotechnology, and there's a lot of rich story material there. So that one, I'm excited to see where they go, but it's also the highest margin for failure, I think.
Oh, interesting. I kind of take the opposite route, thinking that there's just most movies that hit like the mark for money, if you look at it, are science fiction movies. I mean, John Carter aside, look at Avatar, look at video games have a very similar lineage to comic books in that they have extremely deep and wide mythologies and storylines, and, they've got the backstabbing double character that, is fighting with the hero the whole time. So to me, it's a matter of like the machine that's gotten a hold of these video games and thought, we've got a built-in following. We can just throw in a bunch of explosions and, an actor. And Give it to somebody like Zack Snyder, who's just going to put a lot of slow motion in there and make it'll be a decent movie. I think that's the main problem so far. I think there could be a good movie in here. What do you think about the other three? I think Need for Speed, just based on Fast and Furious, that type of model could be a mega hit as well.
Sure, I think Need for Speed is. I mean, it's hilarious that someone's making a movie out of that. Like,
it's a racing game, right?
It's a racing game. Yeah, Need for Speed is a long-standing racing game, and I think there's as much material for story, or there's as much that you can mine out of the Need for Speed franchise as there was story material that you could mine out of the board game Battleship.
They didn't mine anything out of that, though. That's aliens rising from the sea. I don't remember that in the board game.
Exactly. So I think they're in the same situation with Need for Speed. It's about cars that go fast. Like, that's pretty much it.
So besides documentaries, I've talked about Indie Game the movie, and we all know King of Kong. Video game movies tend to suck. We have a lot of Double Dragons. We have Super Mario Brothers.
Yep.
Let's talk about the movies that have been made and why they don't quite work. Are they doing too much fan service, or are they not faithful enough to the source material? I'm thinking specifically about probably the most successful video game movie franchise, the Resident Evil franchise, which don't seem to have anything to do with what I know about the games, which I thought were zombie movies, but I see the trailers and it's Mia Jovovich being a superhero.
Yes, and I think that's a perfect example. I think that the Resident Evil film franchise is probably the best example of why video game movies, even though that one has been done to some degree of success, why video game movies are failing and have failed so far is because I don't think they're faithful enough to the source material, and they're just not well written. They're not well put together. I mean, if somebody think about superhero movies before Burton's Batman. And think about, I mean, we did live in a world where superhero movies were the same way, right? Where they were just kind of these goofy sort of one-off, whatever, we'll put the cape on the guy and then, And I think that's where video game films are. I think if someone were to take a video game franchise like a Deus Ex, or even we'll go one further, like that Halo movie that never came together, or God of War would be a great example where that's a huge game. I mean, a lot of people know what that is, and I think it's rich for a decent story. If somebody were to take that and give it a proper treatment with a proper script, directing, a decent cast to support it, and really just kind of cash in, just go all in on this one and say, you know what, we're really going to give this the old college try. I think you could get a Burton's Batman or a hit like the original Spider-Man. It seems funny to mention that now that we have the Amazing Spider-Man out, and the original may not have aged as well as we think it does, but I mean, at the time that film was huge because it had stars and it had directing and it had it was a real commitment by the studios. And I think until that happens, you're just going to keep getting these goofy sort of either forgotten failures or kind of in spite of itself successes. I don't know.
I didn't weigh in earlier on which one I thought had the most potential of the ones that are coming in through the pipeline. You guys have been basically reading off my notes, so I haven't had much to add. But I think Assassin's Creed, I'm very confident, even though there isn't a director or a screenwriter attached, the fact that the studio has gotten involved, Ubisoft, that they will. I think Prince of Persia is an Ubisoft game. Does that sound familiar?
Correct. Yeah. That as I remember, that's an Ubisoft.
And
property.
Disney made a big budget movie of that. I actually thought the movie wasn't too bad. I would probably, if I had to name the best video game movie besides documentaries, I would say Prince of Persia by default is the good one. But it didn't make any money. It was a huge financial flop, much like John Carter. You just can't have shirtless guys in Disney movies nowadays.
You can't put them in the desert. People hate the desert. That's the problem.
But they weren't happy with it, so they decided we're going to produce it independently, and we're going to have control over the story, and then we're going to have Sony or another studio distribute it, which is kind of how Marvel was approaching things early on. So the fact that even though the Assassin's Creed franchise, it's very action-heavy, there's a guy in the Middle East, or depending on which sequel you're playing, the Renaissance or Revolutionary America, who's assassinating people.
Yeah, that's the most recent one and the most interesting. Yeah.
But there's a sci-fi umbrella to it where there's someone in, I think, the near future or the present day who is reliving these past. It's a good concept, and it has Michael Fassbender is probably the coolest person you can attach to a movie at this point. That's the one I'm most excited for.
I think you're right. I think you're right on, and I think it has the most reason to have success because of all those reasons that you mentioned. Here's the thing, and I think Ubisoft is doing it right, because what I think even the Prince of Persia film had suffered from a little bit is the studioization of it, where it's like, well, it'd be cool if we did this, or it'd be cool if we did this, and it's like, you do have to, a lot like a superhero film, a lot like a superhero film. I mean, you've got to be at least faithful to the source material. You can take liberties with it, but you've got to treat that with respect there when you have a built-in audience like that. And I think if they can do this, if they can move all the pieces around so they get the right cast, the right script, the right approach, I think, Assassin's Creed has a huge potential for success. Yeah, absolutely.
And Prince of Persia, not to keep talking about that darn film, but I think they probably made a misstep in casting a white actor as a Prince of Persia, and he has a horrible British accent in it, and he's Jake Gyllenhaal. And no wonder people didn't take that movie seriously. There was one other point of discussion I wanted to bring up to you too, and that's whether video games should even be made into movies. Nowadays, they're so cinematic. Obviously, they're borrowing a lot from movies, and movies in turn are borrowing a lot from video games. But they're more interactive, they're immersive. It's a completely different medium. Is there a need to translate them?
I would argue.
Go ahead, Jason. I'm
yes.
sorry, you're the guest.
Oh, no, that's okay. I don't want to I'm going to be on the show and monopolize all the time. I love me some video games. I would argue yes. I would, but I'm curious what you guys think. I can tell you why, but I would argue yes.
I would say that from keeping your material alive, that even if you're thinking which medium is better, that going to a movie or a book or a comic book or something is a smart move from a franchise standpoint. I don't really like that idea of the franchises and whatnot, but there's obviously plenty of good source material. I remember the first time that I started playing the 64 version of Zelda, I was like, what's with the hour and a half of movies in this? Personally, as a kid, I didn't really care for that, but it just lends itself so naturally to the idea of, well, we can make an actual movie out of this and keep Link, the character, in people's minds. So
right.
If 30 years down the road from now they're not making Zelda video games, but suddenly they made a movie in, say, the next 5 or 6 years that centered around Link and it was somewhat successful, there's a way in 30 years to bring that character back to the video game realm and keep the money wheels turning, which is something they want. Because if there was a pretty famous study a few years back, that said that, I had to search this today as well, that 90% of the video game industry revenue comes from 10% of the games made, and most of those are games that have been around for a long time. So you have to keep these babies alive to make them work.
And what I like about your answer, Patrick, is it's American to the core. That's a very dollars and cents capitalistic way to look at it, and I salute you, sir. That's good.
That's why I'm here.
That's good business making sense.
That's why I'm here. Greed is good, people.
I would argue it from just a much more like base perspective, where I understand people saying like, well, it's totally different. It's interactive and it's a different experience, and so no, it diminishes from the experience or it changes it radically. No, I disagree with that, because it's the same debate that's been going on in Hollywood about books being made into films or comic books being made into films, or you can make a film out of anything, you can make a book out of anything. So it's all about tailoring the experience to the medium. What's the strength in storytelling in video games? It's the interactivity. So obviously you're going to lose that in the cinema, or you should. Doom, the movie. I'm looking at you.
I forgot.
Well, if you look at movies and video games, it really makes those characters accessible, because, as much as I loved video games growing up, and I still do to a certain extent, I know that, like, my wife never watches them. I know that a good amount of my friends don't play them. I'm sorry, my wife doesn't play video games, but they might see the movie based on that character if it got enough hype and people were talking about it. Say, oh, you've really got to see this Deus Ex movie.
And I think that's the reason for it. I think it should be done. I think it can be done, and it can be done well. But I think it's it's going back to finding the heart of what makes these stories tick, and I don't think anybody's been able to really do that as successfully as they wanted to up to this point. And I think of that list, the Assassin's Creed, God of War, Deus Ex, those three right there, each one of those could make a really stellar film if given the right set of circumstances. And in fact, as a fan of video games in general, I want to see a video game movie succeed. I really want to see one that just kind of blows the doors off the theater and you know, makes people go, wow, this is really great. And it's sort of, I think it could be then leading to, you know, more folks trying out a deeper, more story-driven video game, because they're like, well, what's, you know, wow, if this story's been here all the time, yeah, you should play the game. There's even more of it. It's great. It's good.
Well, if any of those movies actually make it to the screen, we'll have to have you back, Jason. But before we get rid of you, Pat and I, we like to play a lot of backseat Hollywood tycoon type games on this podcast.
We greenlight. We greenlight dreams. So, what would be your dream video game movie?
That is actually, that would have been a difficult question to answer a few years ago, but now, no question, hands down, I would really like to see a Mass Effect film.
That's correct me if I'm wrong. That's the game that you just broke down on your last episode of Midwest Nerds,
correct?
Right? With the alternate ending or the extended ending.
Yes, yeah. So the Mass Effect, for folks who aren't familiar, is it's created by BioWare, the same folks who have done like a lot of RPGs in their history. So they've done a lot of like D&D based RPGs. They did a lot of stuff with the Star Wars license. In fact, if you've ever heard the words "The Old Republic," it's because it's become more popular because of what the folks at BioWare did. Pretty sure it was a setting, but it wasn't really wasn't done with it before BioWare picked it up and made a bunch of video games about it, and now people are nutso about it. They decided they wanted to do that with their own universe, their own setting, and so they created the fictional universe of the Mass Effect video games, and it's phenomenal. It's actually, I argue in the podcast several times that it's my favorite science fiction setting now, currently. And I'm a Star Trek fan, I'm a Star Wars fan, I'm a fan of Doctor Who, you know, all kinds of sci-fi. It is currently my favorite universe to soak up. So I would love to see a film based in that universe.
As I said earlier, the only game that I play from my history is Mega Man, but pretty much Mega Man 3 and before. Anything after that has been garbage.
So you would want to see a Mega Man movie?
Yes, absolutely. Now, I've seen a couple of like fan film generic knockoffs that were terrible, but it was still something to see because it was Mega Man.
Well, I wanted to pick something where the game had characters and a story. I didn't want the movie and the game to be redundant, but I also wanted to pick a game that had characters and a setting, so not to have the battleship thing. So I couldn't pick Galaga or Breakout or Pong.
Yeah.
Those were the first ones that came to my head. And so I chose a game from the SNES era called Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Ooh.
A game I barely remember ever playing, but the title always stuck with me. And I remember seeing it at a friend's house, and it's, you're a kid and you're saving your neighbors from zombies and mummies, and you have soda cans and squirt guns. So I'm imagining this Goonies Monster Squad type movie. I think it'd be, and zombies are hot right now, so that would be my choice for a video game turned movie. But that's going to wrap up our video game movie chatter. We'll be back in a bit to wrap up the show. Stay tuned to Filmcast Without a Cause.
Well, folks, it's about time to wrap up the show. But before we go, it's time to tell you what's new on DVD, Jacob.
What came out this Tuesday, which would have been July 17th, a bunch of films, some looking a little better than others. Lockout, the Luc Besson produced, Guy Pearce starring Space Jail movie, which I saw and is bad, so don't see that.
But it is ripe to become a video game.
Hey now, don't just like shove the schlock our direction. That's
No, but it's reverse fashion, you know. Sometimes they make movies. Marvel's known for it, making their movies into video games. It sounds like something to break into a prison, break out of a space prison.
I'd play that.
Get the Gringo, the newest Mel Gibson film, straight to DVD. Three Stooges, a film I'm against on principle of. We can talk about that a little bit later if you guys want. Intruders, a Clive Owen horror film by the director of 28 Weeks Later. Casa de mi Padre, a Will Ferrell starring telenovela. Salmon Fishing in the Yemen, which is about just that. And Friends with Kids, which is a comedy, I believe, starring John Hamm, Kristen Wiig, Adam Scott, and Maya Rudolph. I've already told you, Lockout, don't see it, but there are any of those that came out this week that you guys kind of want to see?
Just out of the pure curiosity factor, I mean, get the Gringo? What's that all about?
I don't know anything about it. I should have done a little more research. But supposedly it's better than you'd think. But Mel Gibson's kind of the box office poison, as they say nowadays.
Right.
So it went straight to DVD.
I just think the Mel Gibson straight to DVD in a project called Get the Gringo, I would at least have to throw in and watch the first 20 minutes. I mean, just what is this horror show?
If we look at the synopsis, it's a career criminal nabbed by Mexican authorities is placed in a tough prison where he learns to survive with the help of a 9-year-old boy.
That sounds like his next court case. That's okay.
Out of the list, the one I'm most excited about is Salmon Fishing in the Yemen, because everyone says it is a beautiful film, and I missed it when I was in town.
I have to go with Casa de Mi Padre. I'm not the biggest Will Ferrell fan, but I'm a fan of the parody films that adopt the style of the type of media it's parodying. Like Black Dynamite took on
Black Exploitation, sure.
Blaxploitation. So I've heard it's not very good, but I'm at least curious enough that I'm probably going to check out Casa de Mi Padre when it comes out. And I also want to see Friends with Kids because I really like that cast. Lockout would have been number one on that list if I hadn't seen it. Speaking of other things we've seen, this is the part of the show where we like to just throw out random recommendations, things we've caught on the big screen, things we've caught on Netflix or on DVD or Blu-ray. Jason, you're the guest. What have you seen lately?
Can I say two? There are two.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
You can say three.
This is a podcast.
Oh, my word.
Tell us about your home movies.
Yeah. So in this one, we dressed our cats up in goofy costumes. No, I am recently getting back into Doctor Who on Netflix. And if you haven't, man, some of the best sci-fi that's out there. It's some of them are goofy and weird, and some of them, but it's never bad. But when it's great, it's great. So I mean, if you're a fan of sci-fi, check out the Who reboot. Start with the 2005 season and just go from there. It's a beautiful thing. We just picked up Sherlock season 2, which is there are so many different Sherlock Holmes things out there right now, especially after the Robert Downey Jr. success train took its swipe at the Sherlock Holmes thing. But the BBC
Kung Fu Sherlock, as I call it.
Yes, yeah, actually that's a great way to put it. But the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock is just phenomenal. I mean, I cannot say enough good things about it. You would think, at least I kind of thought when I first read about the setting, and it's now in modern day, I'm like, oh, well, we've seen this before. It's great. It's phenomenal. Benedict Cumberbatch is indescribably awesome. The writing is great. Every single one of those is like a mini feature film because they were masterpiece broadcasts in the U.S. originally. So good. So good.
I second that recommendation. Pat, what do you have going on?
I would say this past week I rented Goon after finally hearing enough people tell me that it was one of the best movies of the year so far. It's a film about a guy who's just a bouncer in a bar, loves hockey, and then randomly beats a hockey player up in the crowd at a game and gets recruited by the team to play, and he turns out to be like the best enforcer that minor league hockey might have ever seen. And it is phenomenal. I'm not a big hockey fan. I've seen a couple games live, and it was amazing. But this movie made me want to go watch a ton of hockey, and it's hilarious. If you don't like sports, you're probably just going to love it because it's so over the top good that you can't miss it. It's crude as can be, but it is a must see. Another thing I'd like to throw out there is there's one of my personal favorites of all time. Speaking of Batman, Michael Keaton. There was a great interview with him. He rarely does interviews. He's been on David Letterman a few times in, I think, the last 10 years. But other than that, he does nothing. He barely even acts. And in this Grantland interview with him, he just breaks down everything. He talks about Beetlejuice. He talks about Tim Burton, Jack Nicholson, Batman, some of the other things he's worked on and where he's been and how he got to be where he is. And just one quick last thing, something you might regret, but I'm going to tell you to watch it anyways. I showed it to Jacob. And that is the fan film that was put together for Why the Last Man, a rather popular underground comic that was almost made into a movie a few years ago. See it, immediately regret it, but it's out there.
Speaking of comic book fan films, this just showed up on my radar today that Thomas Jane made a Punisher fan film.
I was going to watch that before today, but oops.
I would say that's where I found that better than the Y one, and I'm not a big Punisher fan. But to even say it's a Punisher fan film is kind of a spoiler. But every article I saw it under said Punisher fan film, so it's kind of the reveal. We talked a little bit about Woody Allen earlier in the show. I wanted to throw out a plug for the recent American Masters documentary, Woody Allen, a documentary. If you really want to learn more about this guy and his process and his personal life, it was like a 3-hour film. It's out on DVD now. As well, coming out to DVD is Johnny Carson, King of Late Night, another great American Masters biography documentary. American Masters is the biography strand of PBS, and they do top-notch stuff.
Yeah, I would like to second that one too. I caught it on the broadcast on PBS and missed like the first 10 minutes of it, but just got sucked right in, and it was phenomenal. I mean, it was just really, really a lot of insight and a lot of insight into the guy's life. He was an interesting guy. I mean, he really was.
The Woody Allen one, he's still alive, and he's an interview subject, so they kind of give him the kid gloves a little bit. But Johnny Carson, you find out how multifaceted of an individual he was, and there were some dark periods in that movie. Yeah. I also wanted to mention, because Woody Allen makes a film a year, they've already announced that Louis C.K. is going to be in the next one.
I saw that. Interesting.
Wow.
Seems like a perfect person to put in those movies. Maybe a little darker than Woody, but definitely fits somewhere in that world.
Yeah, hopefully he fits a little bit better than Larry David did in Whatever Works. But Louis is a show where Louis C.K. is the writer and the director, and he's definitely channeling Woody Allen on a weekly basis. And the first 2 seasons of that are on Netflix. The third one just started on FX. Top-notch stuff. Positive words are coming out of my mouth about Louis.
Time for the part of the show where we ask you to tell us what we did wrong on this episode, what parts of video games or movies that we don't know about or don't know what we're talking about. Feedback. Hit us on Twitter at FilmcastWOAC or Gmail. That's filmcastwoac@gmail.com. And of course, there's always filmcastwithoutacause.com. Leave a comment on this episode so we know where you're talking about, what you're talking about, and who you are, and maybe we'll throw you in the show as we did last week and possibly this week.
I should mention Nathan C. did get back to us about Amazing Spider-Man, like I knew he would, and I commented on his page. He put me to shame because I did not mention Martin Sheen and his great Uncle Ben in that movie, so mea culpa. We want to thank Jason Burns for joining us on the show today. Jason, where can people find you?
That is a great question. We are in many places. We're on the Twitter, we're on the Facebook, but you can find all the information at our website, which is MidwestNerds, all one word, .com. That's MidwestNerds.com.
And we'll be back next week with a review of...
I think it's called The Dark Knight Sinks. Is that what it is? I haven't seen a trailer for it yet, so I don't know.
It's The Dark Knight Rises, and as we speak, reviews are pouring in, and I'm not reading a single one. I'm going blackout. They could be calling it the worst movie ever, and I'm not going to read anything about it.
I hope it is the worst movie ever, because man, would that be something.
That would be something.
Well, if it is, you'll be sure to hear about it next week on Filmcast Without a Cause. I'm Patrick Boberg. Our guest this week was...
Mr. Jason Burns. Thank you very much for having me, guys. It was a lot of fun.
And I'm Jacob Rousdale. Goodbye.
You know, I don't think anyone's gonna tell us when to leave.
Yeah, good call, Garth. I'll bet we're just gonna sit here, and when they're finished, they'll fade to black.
I can't believe they did that.
I told ya.